She's not really in the shot, but she's just like chilling on the desk, like just straight up, not like she's just chilling. She's just here. Let's make sure the YouTube is awake. Then we will get started. There it goes. Yes. Yeah, there it goes. That's beautiful. All right. Let me just make sure everything is operating as it should. Taking a little bit of time. There we go. Yes. I am petting a cat, by the way. I am petting a cat. She's chilling here on the desk. Lucy's been a little clingy this morning. She's usually not as clingy in the mornings these days because I'm always here. So she's like, yeah, whenever you're done with that thing where you talk at the computer, we'll hang out. It used to be, she's like, well, you're doing that thing where you talk at the computer and then you might be gone a lot during the day. So let's hang out. But now she's just like, yeah, I'll see you later. You're always here. But she's hanging this morning anyway. Maybe she just enjoyed her breakfast. I don't know. What's up, everybody? Good afternoon, good evening, good day, good morrow, good morning, good time, I guess. Although it's definitely a weird time. I hope you are staying safe. I hope you are staying out of trouble. I hope you are staying home. I hope you are enjoying this Tuesday, April 21st, in the quarantine year of our Lord 2020. Happy Tuesday. Hope you're doing okay. Guys, as usual, Joe Biden is crushing it. Absolutely crushing it in the public spotlight. I mean, he nails it on all cylinders, and he really breaks down policy in a way that the general person can understand. Get a load of this, Jim.
We have to make sure everyone has access to maintain affordable health insurance coverage. We should be making it easier, not harder, to make sure make sense to, let me put it another way. It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Let me put it another way. It makes no sense was also what they were hoping for his campaign slogan. That's actually what they were thinking. They might just make his campaign. So there you go. There's Joe Biden crushing it like he always does. And here, come here, Lucy. You're a little too close to the keyboard. Here's something else that happened. As far as the world of political advertisement goes, check this out. And you might have seen this already. This went very viral this week. And this is something. Here, let me get the volume up.
$1 billion fund to help small businesses and its workers get through the shutdown.
It will be up to Congress to restock it.
But Democrats blocking that move this morning.
They asked for $250 billion in 48 hours. I said, well, I don't think so. They objected, and I congratulate the Senate Democrats.
Speaker Pelosi, what are you going to share with us from your home?
Chocolate candy.
Thousands have been forced to wait for hours at food banks all across the country.
This is chocolate, and then we have some other chocolate here. We just got to restock the ice cream.
You don't want to eat up everything all at one time.
I can't do it much longer. I'm trying so hard.
We were, shall we say, enjoying.
Having to admit that, we're starving, and
I like it better than anything else.
Taping this segment, there are 22 million people out of work.
This specific program is about stopping job losses today.
This is hurting people bad.
Other people in our family go for some other flavors, but
right now it's survival move. You don't know where that next something else is going to come from.
I don't know what I would have done if ice cream were not invented. I just wonder.
That's brutal. That ad is brutal. And Nancy Pelosi handed that to Donald Trump. Can you blame anyone? First of all, Nancy Pelosi said, her kids like all kinds of different flavors. I'm assuming her favorite flavor is Tears of the Poor. I'm pretty sure that's her go-to. Can you blame anyone for not wanting to vote for that? Like, how can you blame anyone? And look at that ad. That ad is brutal. And that's what the Trump team's doing right now. We watched the Biden ad yesterday where Biden just attacked Trump from the right on China. All the things you could criticize Donald Trump when it comes to COVID-19, all the things you could criticize that guy for. The easiest of which, he has no clue what the hell's going on. He's making all kinds of claims that have no science or medical backing, saying we're going to get a vaccine tomorrow and there's going to be unicorn blood's the cure. All these ridiculous claims. And instead they attack him from the right on China. And this is the ad that they just dropped. Nancy Pelosi, and by the way, Nancy Pelosi did all this. We talked about that. And now Nancy Pelosi is asking for money after she showed off her $24,000, her two $12,000 refrigerators, so 24 in all, and her ice cream that goes for, I think it was $20-some a pint. You know, Shahid Buttar and I talked about this after she did all that. And again, as this ad shows, people are starving. People are lining up for food. We are amidst basically a depression. I mean, we've been in depressions before, and the only reason it's not designated as such is because they reevaluate what qualifies a depression, so they don't have to call it a depression. But that's pretty much where we're at. And she's boasting about the ice cream and her freezer. And also, I gotta say, it was a little selfish that she gave a tour of her kitchen and did not show us the oven that Hansel and Gretel were pushed into. That would have been, I mean, you know, that's folklore. I don't know why she didn't show that to us. But this is, I mean, you look at ads like that, you can't blame anyone for feeling like they don't have anywhere to turn. Because you know which party represents workers? Neither. Donald Trump did that ad. Donald Trump's not going to do anything for workers. He's been actively against workers. The only difference is that he gave the lip service when he had to. He gave the lip service when he had to get the votes. Again, talking about bogus promises. That's what he did all during 2016. He made bogus promises. Hillary Clinton made no promises. Can you blame people for feeling like they have nowhere to turn? Can you blame people who see that ad that is by Nancy Pelosi's own making, quite frankly, and are saying, I'm not going to vote for this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate this anymore because we have two parties, both who are owned by Wall Street. And I'm tired. I'm tired of the Democratic establishment. I'm tired of the Beltway pissing in my mouth and telling me it's lemonade. I'm sick of it. I mean, that ad is brutally effective. And that Biden ad was laughably ridiculous that we talked about yesterday. And now Nancy Pelosi, by the way, is asking for money. She's asking for money. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up real quick. After she did the campaign stunt, I'm going to show you the thousands of dollars of ice cream. She started asking for money for her campaign. And why did she ask for money for her campaign? Well, because according to her, the Republicans are trying to stop her. But her opponent in November is not a Republican. Her opponent's this guy. Her opponent's Shahid Buttar, a digital rights activist, a democratic socialist. And he's been on the show a good handful of times, not just to talk about his campaign, but to also talk about issues in the digital rights vein. That's who her opponent. I did the point thing right. Did you guys see that? I always get it wrong. I did it right this time. Every morning, I'm like, do the opposite of how it's supposed to look to you, because then it'll look. I did it, huh? Oh man, yeah. I feel like the Rocky theme music should be playing right now. Da 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 da. I got the point right. Da 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 So Nancy Pelosi just got slammed hard in this ad, and she's lying when she's asking for money because she's saying the Republicans want to stop me. Your opponent's not a Republican, Nancy Pelosi. It's Shahid Buttar. It's a Democratic socialist. Why won't Nancy Pelosi put out an ad saying a Democratic socialist is trying to stop me? Maybe because that won't go over so well in San Francisco. Maybe, just maybe, people will think, who is that guy? I want to look into him. So Nancy Pelosi's scared in November. And when you look at ads like that, if you are a blue no matter who person, and you look at ads like that are going to be very effective in hurting Democrats, do you want Nancy Pelosi in office? Donald Trump or any other Republican sure as hell couldn't make an ad like that about Shahid Buttar. Shahid, after that happened, Shahid posted a picture of his freezer, which was just a regular freezer. They couldn't make that ad about him. So if you're a blue no matter who person, don't you see how Nancy Pelosi's a liability? Don't you see how she is so unbelievably disconnected? How disconnected from the world do you have to be that Donald Trump and the Trump campaign can call out how disconnected you are? Donald Trump, the person who was born with the silver spoon, who would have more money right now if he just did nothing with what was handed to him. That guy, the plutocrat's plutocrat, that guy is able to point out how disconnected you are, and he's right. That's how insanely disconnected Nancy Pelosi is, and people are supposed to believe that they really got a choice when it's Wall Street A and Wall Street B. Man, she got dunked on hard in that ad. Hard. So I got a little bit of good news, everybody. And let's do, what else do I have here? I have, we'll go here first. You know what? Let's do good news last. Let's do the good news last. This is more like news. This is more news. And this will be a topic too. By the way, put your thoughts in the chat and I'll be getting to it at the end. But I'm curious to know what people think of this. So this gets into farming. And I've been thinking about this a while, and I know I'm a little bit biased here because I love my farmer's market. You guys know my romance. Well, romance is a weird way to put it, but you know my my situation with the Apple, the guy who I have affectionately named Apple Bro in my neighborhood, the farmer's market I go to. There's this guy. He's the Apple person, and he's very confident, this Apple person. And I found out it's because his apple's very good. The first week I went there, he just looked at me and he was like, "Hey, have you ever had our apples before?" I said, "No." And he goes, "Okay." And just turns around. That was all I did. He just turned around. I'm like, wow, this guy. So I tried his apples. I realized why he has that confidence. These apples, I can taste them now just talking about them. They're incredible apples. And if you use the promo code Ron at checkout, no, I'm just kidding. I don't even know the guy's name because I would keep going back. I went back week after week. And Apple Bro, a lot of confidence. He almost has this thing like you're inconveniencing him when you show up at his booth. Like, yeah, I get it. My apples are awesome. I'm actually the mayor. The mayor of what, you ask? California. You didn't know California had a mayor? Yeah, it does. And I'm it. I sell these apples for fun. Like, that's the confidence this dude has, right? So they did stop the farmers markets in my neighborhood. And I did not look it up online in advance on Thursday. So I went to my farmer's market thinking I was just going to my farmer's market, and I get there and no one's there. And I actually, for a split second, I expected to like walk into the market anyway and see Apple Bro there holding the heads of all the other produce salespeople, going, yes, I have conquered. My apples conquer all. I now control all the vegetables and the fruit and the cheeses and the kombuchas you can get and the breads. I'm that guy now. Mayor of California, Apple Bro. Try an apple. I made a deal with the devil to get the apples this good. My son died tragically at the age of 27 so that I could have the most delicious apples. And my soul will be damned for eternity. But isn't that the best Granny Smith you ever been into? And I was going to be like, why did you cut off everybody's head, Apple Bro? And I'll be like, don't ask questions. Do you want apples or not? And I'll be like, yeah, I'll take some apples. That's what I thought might happen. Apple Bro wasn't there. Apple Bro was not there. So I think getting to the point. So here's what's going on. Farmers, because farmers markets are closing, they're not able to happen now. And I will say at my farmers market, people were practicing social distancing. You had to wait for your turn to go into, into the tent to get whatever you wanted. There were tape markers, so people were staying far apart. And I get it that we really need to be cautious. I understand that. However, I think that farmers markets should be considered essential services the same way grocery stores are. And I understand how some people might feel differently. I have a feeling that here live, some of you aren't going to agree with that. Some of you are. And I get it. I get the argument that, well, gee, Ron, at a grocery store, you can kind of get the whole spectrum of foods. You can kind of cover the whole gamut, get all your needs, all your food needs. At a farmer's market, it's a little more specialized. Okay, that's true. But here's the deal. You can get produce of a certain quality at a farmer's market that you can't get otherwise. That's insanely important, especially during a time when people are very susceptible and people are very vulnerable. The right vitamins and nutrients go a long way, and you get a lot of that from fruits and vegetables. So that's insanely important. Also, here's the other thing. Farmers aren't able to get their bounties out. So here's something that's going on. This is from CNN Business, and they didn't have a picture of Anderson Cooper pop up. I'm a little disappointed. Farmers are throwing out food that could go to food banks. I like how there's a little subtle shaming in the farmers right away, by the way. Like they try to make it out like it's the farmer's fault. And here's the deal. Farmers only have so many resources to distribute things. And they only have so much that they can do with their bounties. A lot of farmers do donate to food banks, first of all. A lot of them do that. And they can only do so much because, they're counting on restaurants buying some of their bounty. They're counting on people buying some of their bounty. They rely on that so that their farm's sustainable. And if they can't do any of that, they can't just drive around and distribute it to anyone that could need it because, they got a farm to run. You know what I mean? Like it's not that they don't want to. I'm sure a lot of them do. So anyway, I like the subtle like it's the farmer's fault. It's not. It's anyway, the American Farm Bureau and Feeding America want to change that. So here's what's going on. Food banks are in desperate need of donations. The American Farm Bureau, which represents American agriculture producers, and Feeding America, a network of 200 food banks and 60,000 food pantries nationwide, teamed up to call on government officials to help connect farmers with food banks. The letter comes as millions of people newly unemployed flood the doors of food banks, food pantries, and soup kitchens. So, basically, I sincerely hope something goes through that better connects farmers to food banks. That's essentially important. But this is why I do think farmers markets should still be open. And in some cases, they are reopening. A lot of them, I know the farmers markets in my community, they're taking it 1 week at a time. They're kind of looking at the numbers and they're trying to open when they can. But another thing that a farmers markets does is it aids distribution. A lot of times you'll see farmers and you'll see volunteers that they go around and the stuff that farmers didn't sell that maybe they want to donate, they'll give to a food bank. So farmers markets ease the distribution issue at a time where the government is doing nothing to help. And the government should interfere to help. There should be some kind of distribution mechanism set up so that no farmer anywhere has to waste any of their harvest. First of all, we should never be wasting food, period. And under no circumstance should food ever be wasted in this country. Ever. In the world, for that matter. Food should never, ever be wasted. But, you know, when you're in a situation like this, when you're in a pandemic like this, there should be a better distribution service available. I think there should be services available where people can go to the farmers markets to get certain items for people who can't go because they're more immunocompromised and deliver the food to them. There should be a logistics service available so that no farmer has to get rid of any of their bounty and they can get their food to food banks or other people in need. All of that should exist. It shouldn't be on the farmer's back. And by the way, other countries have stuff like that. England, you know, I have a friend in England. I was messaging with him the other day. You know, first of all, his wages are being covered. Most people's wages are being covered. So his wages are being covered. And he's actually working for a service that delivers food to people that are the most vulnerable. You know, elderly people, people that are immunocompromised, et cetera, et cetera. He's delivering food to those people. That's what he's doing. Because his wages are met. And he can't work right now. But the government's taking care of its people. They're doing, you know, what a federal government's supposed to do. So, yeah, and I get it. I get, you know, I know some people are going to say, no, farmers markets need to stay closed. And I understand the argument for it. But I think that when you weigh it all out, farmers markets should be treated the same as grocery stores. And of course, in each case, we should practice social distancing the best we absolutely can. You know, wear masks, of course, wear gloves when you can, you know, hand sanitize quite often. I'm thinking about it right now, hand sanitizing, maintain the 6 feet. So, but I get it. It's a really tough, it's a tough call to make. It's a tough call to make. So here's the good news, guys. Here's some good news. So amidst all of this, we're realizing how essential the internet is in our lives. We're realizing that the internet is a utility in our lives. Imagine if we didn't have the internet right now. Where would people go to get information? How would they find out what's going on? What would they do for entertainment? Yikes. Be kind of crazy. Because the internet is really part of our daily sphere now. It's been around long enough. People are used to it. It's a utility in our lives, and it should be designated as such. And a lot of you guys who have been watching the show a long time, you know that's an issue I am very passionate about. I am trying to bring municipal broadband internet to my community of Pasadena, California. And what that is it's the city provides internet, and the city owns the internet infrastructure, and you pay your internet bill the same way you pay for your garbage or something like that. All the cities in the country that have already done this, they experience better internet at a cheaper price pretty much 100% of the time. There's a few projects that are still in development where the speed isn't quite as good as what the private cable companies can offer. And we're talking about one or two, for instances, out of dozens others. I mean, there's well over, you know, there are definitely dozens of municipal broadband projects in the country at this point. You can go to muninetwork.org to find a map of all of them. But nearly 100% of the time, the city option offers better internet, higher quality, better speeds at a cheaper price than what the private cable companies can offer. And it's either better or it's neck and neck. And it's cheaper 100% of the time. And nearly 100% of the time, about 95% of the time, the quality's better. And a few, for instances, the quality is neck and neck. I bumped my microphone there. But it's because the project's not done. And this is a contagious, if you will, thing. Because here's something interesting. One of the more recent municipal broadband projects happened in Charlemont, Massachusetts. Charlemont, Massachusetts is a town of 7,000 people. And they all came together and they said, hey, Comcast, thanks, but no thank you. get the hell out of town. We're going to build our own municipal broadband project because we found out what you're offering us is nonsense and we can build better infrastructure on our own. Because here's why city-owned internet is better than the private cable companies. The private cable companies have organized duopolies where they don't infringe on each other's territory. And then they just try to build infrastructure so that they can price gouge you, the consumer. So they offer you crappy internet and they price gouge you for it. They charge you way more. That's why our rates are way higher than other countries in many, for instances. So that's what they do. So when you have a city project that's just dedicated to try to get quality internet to the people, because everybody uses it from the mayor to the city council to the poorest and richest of residents, you get something better and you get a better price for it. And you're probably going to get better service too. Because you're not calling some call center located who knows where they're going to send out a contractor that doesn't even care because it's some third party thing. No, you're going to get people who use the same internet as you, who want this internet to be working and working well all the time because they depend on it too. That's why the most municipal broadband projects in the country are happening in Tennessee. Why Tennessee? Well, because Chattanooga, Tennessee had city-owned internet before everyone else. They were ahead of the curve. They saw this opportunity in their grid and they built it. They have the best internet in the world. What? Yeah, in the world. They pretty much have the best internet in the world. Chattanooga, Tennessee. Definitely the best in the country. It's among the best in the world. And other places in Tennessee saw that and they were like, whoa, we really want to have that. How can we get that? I mentioned Charlemont. Charlemont, Massachusetts got it. Well, now Cambridge is talking about it. Now Boston's talking about it. And Cape Cod. Here's one of the newest municipal broadband projects happening in the country. Interestingly enough, it's also happening in Massachusetts. Cape Cod, Open Cape, residential fiber pilot, a window to better connectivity on Cape Cod. Earlier this month, Open Cape Corporation, a nonprofit fiber provider in southeastern Massachusetts, announced that it will pilot fiber to the premises residential service at a new mixed-use development in Hyannis on Cape Cod. For the project, Cape Built Development is renovating a historic building to house apartments and businesses. Thanks to Open Cape's connectivity, they will be the first fully fiberized residential units on the Cape. Now, again, going on the premise that this is a contagious thing, here's something that's also happening in New York. And then we're going to go to California. So this is happening in New York. Let's go here first. And this was shared by William, by the way. William, thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sending this to the show. Municipal internet. Dryden could be the first in New York. Okay, so this is Dryden. He is going to build internet for himself. No, I'm just kidding. Dryden's a place. It's just a weird article because there's like a picture of this guy like right under Dryden. Dryden's the city. And yeah, this guy is not Dryden. Anyway. All right. So living in Tompkins County is a balancing act. People who can't afford to live in the city of Ithaca move to the outskirts further into the county. All right. But as they do, they face another set of challenges. Less density means less people, which means less incentives for spectrum. Incentives, they mean money. So what they're saying is people in rural areas, the cable companies don't bother going to build there because they don't care about it. So now people are building their own internet. The town of Dryden, led by town supervisor Jason Leffier, is looking to rectify the issue by installing its own broadband system that would give residents faster, cheaper internet access. Because when you're doing it to actually build infrastructure, when you're doing it to actually provide internet, and these are rural areas that can do it. So when they make the argument of, oh, yeah, we can't afford this. No, any community can afford it because there are so many ways to get it done and get it done right and get it done well. So here you have Ithaca, Dryden, outside of Ithaca. They're trying to do this. And here's something that's happening in California that is reason for optimism that this movement will grow some in California. Check this out. Gavin Newsom, governor of California, says 7 school buses will be converted into mobile hotspots for students who don't have access to the internet. If successful, this trial could be expanded. So right now, this is a temporary thing. This is a temporary thing that they're doing to expand internet access to those that don't have it. But if it's successful, which it will be, people are going to see this and they're going to say the internet should be a utility in our life. That was amazing when we had these hotspots. We needed it. It was essential. Why don't we have this all the time? And then the conversation is going to start. Why don't we have a statewide broadband project that gets high-speed internet to everybody? Why don't we do that? And we can do it. By the way, we can do it. So it's catching on in New York. And by the way, in New York City, there's a bunch of mesh networks that are community owned that are trying to offer people better, cheaper internet within the city. So now you have something going on in California where the government is stepping in and they're doing something. And this is going to catch on too. And this is how the movement grows. And if you get every city in the country with municipal broadband, with city-owned internet, we're going to have better internet at a better price. And guess what we've done? We've won the net neutrality battle once and for all. They're trying to take the open internet from us, folks. They're trying to take it. That's why Ajit Pai, the Trump FCC, gutted net neutrality. The FCC before them tried to gut net neutrality. They failed because there was so much public outcry. And net neutrality is the policy that assures the internet is a utility. And it assures that the internet is free and open, meaning no content provider can pay to have their content load faster. There can't be priority fast and slow lanes for information on the internet. We don't have those protections anymore. And if we lose the medium, we lose it forever, by the way. People make it out like, oh, no, the internet as we know it will always be around. No, you don't know that. Because look at what happened to radio. If you would have told someone in 1992 that all of radio would be completely homogenized and one company would pretty much own every station and they'd all be playing the same 10 songs and it would all be piped in from who knows where and there'd be no local information on the dial, they wouldn't believe you. But what happened 4 years later? Well, the Telecommunications Act in 1996 happened. And then that became a reality. And a bunch of people lost their jobs and they didn't know why. And there was no local information on the dial. A train derailed in the Dakotas. Poison gas was released into the air. If you were listening to the radio, you wouldn't have known about it because everything that was coming in on your radio dial was getting piped in from Denver or somewhere like that. And they were just saying, they were giving you just a weather report. So the point is, once we lose the medium, whether it's the internet or anything else, it's gone and it doesn't come back. So stuff like this is what's going to save us from having to tell our children and our grandchildren what the internet used to be like. You mean anyone could just start a podcast? Yeah. People could live stream on the internet? Yeah. And you weren't employed by Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC? Yeah, that's right. Anyone could do it. Even a comedian in his living room who talks to a black cat, even that guy could do it. We got to save the internet, and this is how. So, guys, I have a guest today, and I'm real excited to bring them on the stream. So, this is Dave and Shayla. They host a show, Reefer Revolutionaries, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a show about domestic beer, and they're here today. Dave and Shayla, how are you?
Hey, Ron.
Hi, Ron. Hi, everybody.
We are coming to you from our cabin sequestered in Mount Washington.
Oh, good.
Coming out of a digital cave.
So, of course, you guys cover domestic beer. That's what I told everybody. That's what you guys. No, of course, you talk about cannabis issues, and I wanted to have you guys on yesterday because it was 420, and that's when I reached out. But you guys were busy, and so we're having you today instead. But so first of all, let's start at the top. How's everything going for you guys? How is your quarantine treating you?
Well, there's been actually it's been a pretty busy quarantine. Chella is helping take care of someone who needs a lot of help. She is someone who has dementia, who has Alzheimer's, who is living alone. Was just about to go into a care facility on March 20th, and it's still waiting for her. They're waiting. They have her room ready to go, residential care, but everything happened. So Chella is mostly trying to make sure she is, taking her needs. So that's been challenging.
But it's been very productive also because we, inspired by my mom's journey, started doing some interviews with doctors and nurses and administrators who work with people living with dementia and use cannabis therapeutics with them. So we have been putting together a new podcast called Cannabis Helps Dementia.
Oh, wow. So you guys have like a brand new project right now.
Yes.
We do. Ironically,
Oh.
speaking about internet starting podcasts, because we're all YouTubers now.
That's right.
Reefer Revolution Live was our Sunday show.
Yeah.
It's basically on hiatus. It's more of a lighthearted news show. And quite frankly, cannabis news is sort of on the back burner in a lot of this. Not to make a pun, of course. We love puns.
Except that cannabis is essential.
Except that cannabis is essential in many states, including here in California. The sales are adding to that. People were worried it was going to be shut down, and then it wasn't shut down here in California. So it is still in the mix as far as a medicinal aid. People who are using cannabis medicine, like patients living with dementia at a facility in Northern California, where we interviewed some people for this. What we were trying to do is put together a documentary about this subject. And you know how long those projects can be. And this is really important information. So we're using this time at home to get our podcast launched, to refocus our efforts towards educating people. Cannabis education was always the goal with Reefer Revolution, despite its lighthearted sort of triangulation with the get high on camera crowd. But we're trying to really educate people that this is really cannabis medicine. It was always our theme of the show. Taking our viewers along our journey with Chella's mom and finding that this was only medicine that did anything that alleviated the symptoms of dementia. And even in this pandemic, you know, cannabis may not cure coronavirus, but it certainly helps people living with anxiety, with boredom. And in many ways, this plant is beneficial in this time. And you can find different ways to ingest it other than smoking it. You can vaporize it, which is better. And of course, there are edibles, tinctures, and there are many other ways to get medicine, which is how primarily people with dementia consume it, is with tinctures. So,
well, I'm not going to lie. It's been very helpful to me during these times.
Us as well. Yes.
So well, unpack it for me. What is how does it help dementia? Like, how can cannabis help dementia? Like, what are some of the elements going on there?
So cannabis nourishes the endocannabinoid system, and we have this endocannabinoid system in our body that balances every other system in the body. The endocannabinoid system really helps with how we process anxiety. People living with dementia, a lot of them have tremendous anxiety. CBD, THC, linalool, other compounds within the cannabis plant all help to address anxiety. The problem with dementia is, well, aside from the obvious problem, but the biggest problem is there's no treatment. There's no effective treatment for the behavioral symptoms in any dementias. And there's over 100 types of dementia. And Alzheimer's is just the number one most diagnosed. So cannabis helps ease agitation, aggression, anxiety. It helps ease depression. It helps with insomnia, helps with appetite. It also helps clear away the plaques and tangles that you find in Alzheimer's better than anything else available on the market.
Yep.
And spreading this information to the whole world is really important to us, since we discovered that the United States Department of Health holds a patent on cannabinoids specifically for Alzheimer's disease, Huntington's, and AIDS-related dementia. So the United States holds a patent since 1998. 33 state departments of health have either Alzheimer's disease or other neurodegenerative diseases on their qualifying conditions lists. So why don't more doctors know about it? Because cannabis is prohibited and it's on the Schedule 1.
And they don't study the endocannabinoid system because of the Schedule 1. So Reefer Revolution was about liberty, freedom, about getting it off the schedule. Bernie was, of course, had the best plan, which Biden doesn't seem to be taking up anyway, which is unfortunate. So, that whole, so with all of this happening, we're trying to focus on the positive and how we can help people. And this is, since cannabis is essential even in this pandemic, There's no reason why people in 33 states, and especially California, who are needing some relief from anxiety and other symptoms that, hey, we're all turning into some going a little bit crazy right now. And we, of course, and we know you are advocates of the fine plant and all of its qualities. So we were ready to launch this soon as possible. This is now just sort of refocusing our efforts. So we're trying to not go stir crazy and get the podcast out there. So we're using, of course, Anchor FM, which is very, helpful with that. And there are a lot of people doing it. Like you say, we need the broadband. And then, of course, our sort of where we work in Hollywood is effectively shut down for the rest of time.
It's weird.
And there are millions of people in Southern California that are going, what the hell am I going to be doing for the next 2 years when you can't get insurance to make a movie or a TV show? What if somebody gets sick? Does that mean the whole production gets shut down? And some of the ideas they're coming up with, it's nuts. And so we're going to become microgreen and mushroom farmers and sell them at the farmers market, which eventually will be essential. And we're going to get out this podcast to educate people that plant medicine is really where it's at, and that people still have Alzheimer's and dementia despite this coronavirus, and we need to give them some relief.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Let's back up a little bit. Something that you just said, Chella. What do you think that the U.S. is doing with this patent that they have? I mean, is it just kind of sitting and collecting dust, or?
Yep, it is. It's just sitting and collecting dust. It may have even expired, but the fact is that they know that it helps Alzheimer's disease,
right?
And there's literally nothing else to help people living with dementia, and especially right now when everybody's home with their loved ones, they need something. They need something. I just went through a thing with our friend who had a UTI on top of having Alzheimer's disease and something wrong with her hip. So she had multiple things going on, and it was unsustainable. She was hysterical constantly. I thought she had to go to a psychiatric hospital, to be honest. And even the cannabis didn't help. It wasn't enough. So we had to make a bunch of changes last week, but people living at home with their loved ones living with dementia, you need this medicine, and there's different ratios that start with CBD, start low, go slow, but start.
Because we're not doctors.
Yeah, we're not
experts, but but on the podcast, we've interviewed for our documentary. We've already interviewed a number of doctors and people in the dementia field, dementia care field. And so we're incorporating those interviews in our initial episodes of the podcast. But then we have now a whole access. Chella is on the outreach committee for the Society of Cannabis Clinicians, where you can actually find real doctors in your area, no matter what state you live in, and no matter what legality the cannabis is in. You can go to scc.org and find a real doctor who does practice with cannabis medicine in your area. And so we are, essentially trying to take all of that information that eventually will go into a documentary, but move that in and then talk to real doctors that are currently doing it. They're very excited about our podcast and participating more in expanding the knowledge. So we'll be doing more live podcast interviews in future episodes, but we have all this really good information that we're ready to launch. And essentially we're just waiting for Apple to give us the approval, and then we'll be launching a few episodes. We're up on Spotify right now, and some of the other standard, sort of smaller podcast platforms, but we're waiting for Apple to give us the go, and then we'll be able to launch 3 episodes at once and sort of promote it that way. So this is just very fortuitous that that we were able to get. You got us out of our digital cave. We're really sort of been, with Carolyn and the podcast, I've been having some back issues, and so we've been sort of taking a hiatus from the show and really focusing inward, trying to focus, see what's going on. And we're quite frankly quite going to move up to Sacramento maybe in this, because Hollywood is dead for 2 years maybe. So we might as well do some lobbying, maybe get our representatives going with more focus on allowing cannabis in residential care facilities. I know they're going through quite a struggle now anyway.
Some of the folks in the chat are saying that our government prohibits studies on cannabis. It's true, because cannabis is on the Schedule 1, but there are still a few studies that show how cannabis helps dementia. This is my notebook about how these are just the studies that show how cannabis helps. So,
well, what kind of leeway do I mean, you're mentioning doctors who are kind of taking the reins on this. What kind of leeway do they have, and particularly in states where cannabis is legal? Like are they still able to kind of break a lot of ground on this?
They could if they were not self-censoring.
They are. Each one is taking their license in their hands. Every one of them.
You as the patient or advocate has to bring in the information to the doctor and show them. You got to help them get out of their prohibitionist mindset, because most doctors went to school under prohibition. So you got to help bridge them from their prohibitionist mindset to where we are today, and they need help with that. So you can bring in studies, you can advocate, you can say that this is what you want, you can say, hey, let's start with CBD, hey, what's the harm? I mean, what we all know for sure is that in the 70 years of prohibition that they've been trying to find the harms, they've found none. So you can always start with the baseline question, doctor, what's the harm?
Sure. But in particular, I guess the doctors I was asking about are the ones that you guys have talked to, the ones that are interested in this work already. Like, what kind of leeway do they have? I mean, can they at the very least be publishing in the medical journals? Can they have any types of trials? Like how much are they tethered or not tethered?
So trials are limited because it's on the Schedule 1 of drugs, and you need ridiculous types of permitting for that. Anecdotal stories are being reported in journals. But those are not valued by doctors on the whole. They want double-blind placebo studies. And there happens to be one coming up this year at King's College London is doing a trial with Sativex, which is a 1-to-1 oral mucosal spray made by GW Pharma of CBD to THC, so 1-to-1. If you have any money laying around, you may want to invest in GW Pharma.
Yeah, Chella keeps telling me it's dropping. We should buy now.
We should buy.
GW Pharmaceuticals, of course, made Epidiolex, which is the CBD drug that has been the only plant-derived cannabis medicine that's been approved by the FDA. So it's really the Schedule 1. There's one Dr. Seuss.
It's $32,000 a year, and that's total fucking horseshit trash.
And it's actually been, and just in the last week, it's been talking of cannabis news. It has been descheduled. They have Epidiolex was on Schedule 5 when they approved it. It's now been descheduled. So that particular cannabis drug is no longer on the schedule. Any doctor can prescribe it. You can't buy it over the counter, but any doctor can prescribe it for anything now.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So that's really the only cannabis drug that's been approved and for use in the United States. The research that's done, you have to get your weed from a dirt weed from a farm in Mississippi. The DEA this month has a slow rolling approval of other farms. They're still dragging their feet and continue to. So the schedule is really what's the impediment is. And if Donald Trump takes it off the schedule anytime soon, or does anything with cannabis, allowing anything happen, which sort of was on the realm of possibility before all of this, who knows? But we know Lev was talking to him about it. So you know how his brain works. We don't know how his brain works, but the Democrats are already losing in so many ways, and so many progressive issues are being outlefted by Donald Trump. I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up with Medicare for all, UBI, and descheduled cannabis before the end of all this.
It could happen. It could happen.
Quite frankly, everybody's saying, well, they need $2,000 a month. How much should we give them a month? How much? Well, and how are we going to go back to work? How are they going to put us back to work when you can get sick again and your antibodies don't work, which is a lot of what's being shown. So much is unknown about this that it's literally the future is on.
That's that's kind of in many ways the most horrifying aspect. There are still so many things that we don't know. There are still so many unknowns, and we're not really up to date on the testing or anywhere close to it. That's an understatement for where we're at. So so it's like, yeah, there's just so many unknowns. You really think Hollywood's going to be closed for 2 years?
Yeah. I read
Sheesh.
another, so when this all first started, I mean, we work so close. We work this close to each other.
This is how you work,
literally.
this is how you work in Hollywood.
This is how you talk. I mean, this is just doing props together, doing set dressing, doing lighting. You're standing this close to each other. And the articles that they're talking about, what they're talking about to open us up again, first of all, insurance will have to insure everybody. And then if the insurance company will insure you, the second thing is we will have to all sign away our lives, literally. If we get COVID-19 on set, it's not their fault.
We kind of do that anyway.
Fine.
Yeah.
So the third rung that really I find irritating is that every morning before we go into work, we're going to have to be tested.
A rapid test of some kind.
Every morning. So it's going to add
and just to give a little background, which I should have done in the first place, but you guys work in costuming and makeup, right?
I do set dressing and props.
Set dressing. Okay.
And I sometimes I'm in front of the camera, but I'm also was an assistant director for a number of years. But yeah, you may remember me from the first episode of the last season of the series Lost, but that would be about it.
Yeah. So we used to work in film and television, and I've always wanted to be giving this sort of education to people and families about how cannabis helps dementia, and we figured now is the time.
Yeah, if you're going to do, I mean, it seems like, do we just sit around and wait and figure out this, or do we go into some essential work like cannabis is essential? We've been looking for a reason to get into the space anyway. And so we're looking for opportunities there in education, of course. And then, quite frankly, farming. We're probably, and because, look at what happened, like you're saying with that story you had about the agriculture, that I was so pissed off about that. I was talking about it all week. That so did you all of that food? It's all going to have to come down to local. We're going to have to come down to local sources. So, food is essential. Cannabis is essential. Hollywood, not so essential right now, as we find Ellen, who treats her crew like crap. Sorry. Anyway, the recent story coming up about how she's, we're in her $28 million house doing so poorly. So now hiring non-union crews to come in and shoot her YouTube show.
No good.
Yeah, right. Well, no, it is interesting that all the stories from earlier today kind of tie into like everything we've talked about.
There you go.
Yeah. So are you with me that you think farmers markets should be on the list of essential services?
Yeah, absolutely.
I quite frankly didn't realize they weren't. We have been so isolated. It's really crazy. Trying to isolate ourselves, but that's ridiculous. I thought all food things were considered essential. People were being respective of as far as what I did see in some of the news. I don't understand why that isn't happening, considering that food is just sitting there fallow and is not getting to anyone.
That's the problem. Well, I mean, I get the concerns that it's like, well, a grocery store, you can get everything. A farmer's market's more specialized, but it's like, yeah, but you can also get the best quality crops and stuff like that. So I think it should be essential services. I think it's important. And yeah, I mean, having my farmer's market allowed me to make less trips to the grocery store because I would get a lot of stuff from the farmer's market. So
right, that's right. And we're actually it's like going to the grocery store. Somebody I'd seen it once on Twitter somewhere said it's like going out for supplies in The Walking Dead. You basically, you take whatever's there. Chella came home. Sprouts line was just ridiculous. It's always 3 hours long. You have to go in the morning. It's
so I got Thai food instead.
You have to load up. So Chella got Thai food. The restaurant was open and CVS. So she look, I bought smokehouse almonds and
ice cream
and ice cream from CVS. It's like a zombie apocalypse supply run.
I know I was supposed to get all of our groceries, but I just came back with nuts and noodles. You'll have to deal.
Exactly. Enjoy the soup.
Make it work.
Yeah. So it's crazy.
So where can people go to find this new podcast? Give everybody all the information they have. I know we're still waiting on the iTunes, but
Working on the iTunes. Well, at cannabishelpsdementia.com, and that'll take you
Perfect.
to wherever the most current and recent. Eventually, there'll be a website up there with all the bells and whistles. But right now, it's going to take you to our public anchor site. Then you can go on to Spotify, and when Apple goes up, it'll be up in there. And then you can even support the podcast there on Anchor, which is kind of cool. I don't mean to promote it so much, but literally it was kind of interesting that we were like, we got to get our podcast off. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, well, look, you can just do this. And we're like, okay, great. That's awesome. And because YouTube, of course, and all of the socials, and that maybe, who knows what's going on with Apple, but YouTube, we never could monetize our YouTube show. Our channel was always, we covered some news. So there were copyright issues, of course, but we scrubbed all that. But still, they're like, oh, the content is not advertiser friendly because it talks about cannabis in any way, shape, or form. Well, we just got our monetization literally right as soon as this pandemic started.
Nice.
We're like, oh, shit, we should go live. Kind of don't feel like it. But because our videos, they are immediately demonetized because of the content. Because it talks about cannabis. They're like, oh, nope, not advertiser friendly. So the only way we can get any is to go live. We think maybe we can start getting some super chats, but it's like, it's always Facebook doesn't allow you to promote. None of the socials let you promote any type of cannabis topic because people sell weed through Instagram. And unfortunately, I think anything with a picture of cannabis or talks about it, you're selling weed. So even education is really challenging to promote. So we're just trying to spread the word. So we're up right now on Spotify. We're going to be up on Apple. If you go to cannabishelpsdementia.com, that'll always be the most current stuff of what's going on.
That's awesome. Well, congrats to both of you on the new project. Everybody, Cannabis helps.
Out of chaos comes creation, right?
I know. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so happy for you guys. I can't wait to check out the new podcast. It sounds incredibly interesting. And thanks for giving us a preview here. So again, everybody, that's cannabishelpsdementia.com. Dave and Shayla, when this is all over, let's have another vegan enchilada night.
Oh yeah, for sure. We so missed that it was great times, and congratulations for everything that's going on in your life and your success. Your show is looking better and better, sounding better and better. It's just getting everything. Listen, you make your own reality, and you have to do that. You have to be happy and find joy, even in these times. Right?
No kidding.
And cannabis helps. Cannabis saves the world.
Totally. Yes, it does. That's the truth. Well, thanks so much for being here, guys, and I look forward to when we can see each other in person again. I miss you all.
Totally. All right. Thanks, Ron.
Oh,
Cheers.
Jilly Love. Yes, we'll do shows, just not regular.
Oh, hey, Jilly Love.
We'll be back.
I got some of our viewers in there. Yeah, I know. They're like, what the hell happened to Reefer Revolution?
Bring it back.
Yeah, appreciate it. We love you guys.
All right. See ya. Peace. Bye. That's great. Obviously those are friends of mine as well. And that's so cool. They got a new project. Cannabishelpsdementia.com. That's awesome. I can't wait to check it out. And great to catch up with Dave and Shella. And let me see what you guys are saying, and then we will dismount for the day. And man, it's sad. I miss seeing everybody, I mean, it's cool to catch up with people on the internets, but Dave and Shella, we'd all party together, have dinners together, and we're not able to do that at the moment. All right, let me see what you guys are saying. Which, by the way, a couple quick announcements before we get into it. Graham Elwood and I, we are having another show on Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That's when we're always doing our Saturday shows. They're on Zoom. You buy a ticket, ronplacone.com. Tickets are $5. You get a Zoom link sent to your inbox right before the show. It's a good time. Grab your ticket soon because space is limited. Those shows sell out because Zoom has a limited number of participants. So grab those tickets. It's been therapeutic to do those. We desperately miss touring. I miss it so much. You guys hear me complain all the time. You're like, yeah, we know you miss it. I miss it so much, though. So much. So yeah, ronplago.com for those tickets. It is the substitute that we have right now for live performance. And if you are so able, patreon.com/ronplacone for a give what you can level. You get all kinds of exclusive content, including my album that you can just download. You get all kinds of videos. You get You get a private Zoom show once a week. I do a Zoom show for the patrons once a week. I just dropped the link on Patreon. It's free for all the patrons. That's a lot of fun. We've been enjoying those. And I do a patrons only stream once a week where I respond directly to the patrons, and the replay is only available on Patreon. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. All right. BW84. What's up? Pelosi and the Dems are really crushing it now. I can't believe they're losing to Orange Man. If this is the plan, I want no part of it. Do you have a plan or initial thoughts on this, Ron? My initial thoughts are Donald Trump is probably going to win again. And we just need to plan for, how we're going to brace for all that. And even if Biden somehow wins, we need to, again, brace for all that. How are we going to handle that? No matter who wins, we can count on the United States not taking the lead on climate change. We can count on that. We're going to have to go into our communities. So, that's the best plan that I have. Go into our communities, because that's all we can do at this point. What's up, Ron? What's up again, B-Dub? What are your thoughts on the collapse of oil? Love you, dude. I think it's time for the collapse to be permanent. That's what I think. I think it's time for the collapse to be permanent. Obviously, our habits are down because of the pandemic. But I think it's time that we really need to, there's all those sentiments and poems that were written after the Spanish flu of people saying how, in a way, the earth healed itself. And the optimist in me says that we're going to do that too. I really have to believe that we're going to come out of this stronger, and we're going to come out of this realizing that, it's time for us to change the way we go about business. It's time for us to get off of our dependency on foreign oil. It's time for us to rethink our food habits, our agricultural habits. It's time to end factory farming. It's time to end our dependence on fossil fuels. It's time to reinvest in green energy, because the next pandemic is going to be related to climate catastrophe. And there's going to be more disease and more famine. And we don't want this to be our normal. So it's time that we reinvest in society in a future, a forward-thinking way. So that's what I'm hoping for, B-Dub. And, Poopy Cakes, what's up? Thank you for your Super Chat contribution. Thank you for your awesome work. Thank you very much, for Poopy Cakes, for the Super Chat and for calling yourself Poopy Cakes, because that's awesome. Inks Pixels, what's up, buddy? By the way, LucianRon.com. Inks Pixels, illustrator, Lucian Ron. How can you not call what you have with your Apple bro a bromance? You talk about the dude like you're bromantically involved. Well, because quite frankly, it's unfortunately one-sided. Apple bro doesn't notice me. And, I just can't have a one-sided bromance. I just can't do that. I'm in my 30s now. And I just can't do that. Off topic. Goldilocks. What's up, Goldilocks? Off topic. Ron, could you cover the new science presentation out today? And you're referring to Dr. Andrew Kaufman on YouTube. That's an interesting name for a doctor. Also, new document I saw on outofshadows.org. Perhaps on a future show. Obviously not right now, but I'll look into all those things. I don't know what document you're referring to on outofshadows.org. Nor am I familiar with that website, so I don't know what that is. I'll have to look into it. I'm not familiar with Dr. Andrew Kaufman. Dr. Andy Kaufman, was a wrestler amidst other things. I'm a little bit more familiar with his work. But Dr. Andrew Kaufman, not familiar with that. Get a chuckle out of the name, but that's all I know. But I will look into that. All right. And let's see. I got one more, and YouTube does that thing where they hide it from you. They hide your last super chat from you for no freaking reason other than just to be frustrating. Let me see. Let me try to find it. I got to scroll and find it the old fashioned way. And I'm not able to find it for some reason. This is frustrating. Yeah, it did that thing. It did that thing again where it doesn't show me any of my super chats. All right. If anyone knows what I See Irony said, please put it in the chat so I can read it. If anyone knows what I See Irony, last super chat of the day, if you guys can put it in the stream for me, I will read it, and I'll wait a little bit because there's a delay. There's a delay in you guys typing, and so I will wait for that. But in the meantime, again, if you're looking for a new webcomic, LucyandRon.com. It's a great webcomic. Oh, here we go. I see irony. New research shows Alzheimer's is basically type 3 diabetes. Okay, interesting. Ketogenic diets have halted the mental decline in patients. Don't tell Joe Biden, though. Interesting. I'll be honest, I wasn't aware. I mean, this kind of shows my ignorance. I'm not aware of what type 3 diabetes is, to be honest with you. I know about type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, but type 3 I'm not familiar with at all. So this is my first time hearing about anything of that. Interesting. I see irony. Interesting. Thank you for that. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. You know the drill. I'll be back tomorrow because that's just what I do. I come back. We'll be back tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And until then, you know the drill. Lucy says meow. I say peace. Peace.